Welcome back to another class on Evean Hazaer Halacha series. We are in Siman Aleph, in Halacha Yud, in the Pitchei Teshuvah in Od Tetvav. Today we are actually going to begin the Pitchei Teshuvah. When we began the Pitchei Teshuvah in part 12 of the Shiur, he said over there, Ein ber heitev and siv katan chav aleph, which we did do. And then he's going to tell us, Ad u Beit Hillel pirish Rama be'inyan acher. And Beit Hillel explained the Rama in a different manner. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole ber heitev because we already did it from part 12a to part 12. But I do strongly suggest that one should listen to part 12a at the very least to get a better understanding of what the Pitchei Teshuvah is going to be trying to explain today. I'll try to bring out the point, but as usual, whenever you are learning Torah, you want to be able to know what exactly the whole situation is going on. So do your due diligence and listen to part 12a, and then only begin the Pitchei Teshuvah. You'll have a better appreciation. Today's class is going to be part 12g. The Pitchei Teshuvah begins. Before I do begin the Pitchei Teshuvah, let me try to tell you outside so you guys will have a better appreciation and it will be much easier to understand. Up to now, we've been dealing with the Shulchan Aruch and the Rama. When the Shulchan Aruch says V'chein ba'arusa, that the Cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable, we've been trying to identify what is the Rama coming to tell us in the understanding of the Shulchan Aruch. And we gave many answers to this. One of the most simplest answers we understood, the way the Rama is trying to explain the Shulchan Aruch, was like this. When are we going to tell you that, and so too by the Arusa, the Cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable? That is specifically if he does not want to marry her, but rather he wants to divorce her. However, if he does not want to divorce and he wants to marry her, we're going to tell you that the Cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is applicable to the Arusa. However, Rabotai, today we're going to see a whole different pshat from the Beit Meir, which we haven't seen up to now. And this is mind-boggling. And before we do that, I want to just try to show you something else. We spoke about in the past classes that there is also another type of cherem that Rabbeinu Gershom did. You have two cherems that Rabbeinu Gershom did when it came to marriages. One of them is that you're not allowed to marry another woman on top of your original wife. That's what we have been dealing with up to now. However, the second cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is that one is not allowed to divorce his wife against her will. Comes the Beit Meir, and the Beit Meir is going to tell us, do you know what we are dealing here with? Not with the first cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, but rather the second cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. So the first cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is Shelo lokech isha acheret al ishto rishona. One is not allowed to take another woman on top of his first wife. The second cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is Shelo legaresh ba'al korcha. You're not allowed to divorce your wife against her will. It has to only be with her consent. So this is what we're going to actually go ahead and try to see today, the second part of the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. So let me tell you like this. Comes the Beit Meir and he's going to tell you, do you know this whole time what the Rama is really teaching over here? The Rama is telling you like this. Do you know when the Shulchan Aruch says V'chein ba'arusa, and so too by the Arusa, that there was no cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom? Do you know which cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom there was not by the Arusa? Is the second cherem, where the Rabbeinu Gershom said one is not allowed to divorce his wife against her will. Comes the Rama is going to tell you, is specifically in this case, we're going to tell you this law does not apply. So watch this. This is how it's going to work. V'chein ba'arusa, and so too by the Arusa, lo tiken. Rabbeinu Gershom did not institute, or lo hechrim, he did not make his communication, shelo legaresh ba'al korcha, not to divorce his wife against her will. This institution that he did on any normal wife, he did not do it by the Arusa. How do we see it? Because the Rama clearly says, If you don't want to marry her, but rather you want to divorce her, we would have thought it's asur to divorce her. Comes the Beit Meir, he's trying to tell you that but rather he wants to divorce her. How can you divorce her? Isn't there the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom? And he's going to tell you, no, you're allowed to go ahead and divorce her against her will, because the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable by the Arusa. We're not speaking about the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom where it comes to taking another wife on his original wife, because over there, that will be asur. All right, Rabotai, this is what we're actually going to see today. So the Be'er Heitev begins in Sivkat and Tetvav. Ein Be'er Heitev, not the Be'er Heitev, the Pitchit Teshuvah. In Ot Tetvav he begins, Ein Be'er Heitev Sivkat and Chav Aleph. Look into the Be'er Heitev and Sivkat and Chav Aleph. Add until the words Ubeit Hillel Piresh HaRama Be'inin Acher. That Beit Hillel, he explained the Rama in a different way. Now this is where you guys gonna, I don't know if you have the same Shulchan Aruch as I do. I use the Friedman edition, but I'll just show you. So basically, Beit Hillel will be right over here. So like I explained to you, Rabotai, when you do part 12a, and then you have part 12b, in part 12b, that's where we said up until Beit Hillel. So that's what the Pitchit Teshuvah is telling us now. Go look into the Be'er Heitev in Sivkat and Chav Aleph until the words of Beit Hillel explained the case of the Rama in a different way. You have to know it, which is part 12a and part 12b. So one more time. On Be'er Heitev Sivkat and Chav Aleph. Look into the Be'er Heitev Sivkat and Chav Aleph. Add until the words where it says Ubeit Hillel Piresh Rama Be'inin Acher. And Beit Hillel explained the Rama in a different way. Ve'ain b'sefer Beit Meir. Here we go, Rabotai. Look into the sefer called Beit Meir. Denira lo yoter pirush Beit Hillel. It seems more to him the explanation of Beit Hillel. Beit Meir appreciates or values the way Beit Hillel explains the Rama more than anyone else. More than the Beit Shmuel, more than the Turi Zahav, more than the Chacham Tzvi, and also we had over there Shut Yaakov. We had many Achorunim that came and they wanted to explain what the Rama was trying to teach us in the understanding of the Shulchan Aruch. Comes the Beit Meir and he says, I like the way Beit Hillel explains the Rama in the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. And here we go. He says, look into the Sefer Beit Meir, where it seems to him that he appreciates, he likes more the explanation of Beit Hillel, the Kavanat Rama, when it comes to understanding the Rama, Lefaresh Divrei Mechaber, to explain the words of the Mechaber, the Ba'arusa lo tiken, when we say over here that by the Arusa that they did not do the institution of the Cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, do you know what that means? Ha'inu, which means to say, this is what the Rabbeinu Gershom made a cherem, not to divorce one's wife against her will. Over here he did not institute. And this is what the Rama added. If you don't want to marry her, but rather you want to divorce her, how can you see from here that divorce is against her will? He tells you, which means to say, he's able to divorce her against her will. Rabotai, do you guys see what the Beit Meir just did? The Beit Meir is going with the opinion of Beit Hillel, that when the Rama was trying to teach us over here that there's no cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, yeah, of course there's no cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, but which cherem? Not the cherem of when it comes to take another wife on your original wife. We're not speaking about the first cherem. We're speaking about the second cherem. But of course the first cherem does apply. Rabotai, one more time. Comes the Beit Meir and he says, Beit Hillel's explanation is beautiful. when the Shulchan Aruch said v'chein ba'arusa lo tiken, and so too by the arusa that the cherem obligation was not instituted. You know which institution was not instituted over here? Shelo legaresh ba'al korcha. This that he made an institution not to divorce one's wife against her will was not instituted over here. It is the second Rabotai, the second cherem obligation, but not the first. All right, so that's what he says. Aval, however, milisa acheret kodem gerushim, but to go ahead and marry another woman before divorcing the arusa, lo Meir, the Ramah was never speaking about that. Vehu asur, and that is asur to do. Now, this is where part 12a comes into the picture. The Shvut Yaakov wanted to say that when we were understanding in the opinion of the Shvut Yaakov in the Ramah, the way he wanted to explain the Shulchan Aruch, the Shvut Yaakov wanted to learn, and he wanted to, when the Shulchan Aruch says v'chein ba'arusat, that the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable, again we're going with the first cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. When he wants to say it's not applicable specifically if he wants to divorce his wife. But if he wants to marry his wife, then the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is applicable. Comes the Beit Meir and he's telling you, no, one second. Doesn't make sense. Did the Shvut Yaakov just say that if you want to divorce your wife, you are allowed to go ahead and you are allowed to marry another woman because the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is not applicable? That's what you want to say? Comes out like this. Reuven has an arusa, which is Sarah. Now he put his eyes on another girl, which is Leah. Comes the Shvut Yaakov and we ask Reuven, what do you want to do with Sarah? He says, I want to divorce her. You want to divorce her? Go marry Leah. But one second, when am I marrying Leah? Before divorcing Sarah or after divorcing Sarah? Comes the Shvut Yaakov says that since you already want to divorce her, go marry her and then go divorce her. That means you already, technically you have two wives. One is in Arusa and one is in Nisua. Right? The first one is the first stage of Kiddushin. The second one is even in the second stage of Kiddushin. So comes the Beit Meir and he says, one second, that's not how you're not going to learn Chas v'Shalom. That's not how you're going to understand it. Of course the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is applicable even when you want to divorce her. You can't go now and take Leah as your second wife and then only divorce her. You cannot do that. That is asur. You're first going to go ahead and divorce Sarah, and only then can you go ahead and marry Leah. Why? Because the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom is applicable. And over here, that's not what we're even speaking about. We're speaking about over here, the second cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, where you're not allowed to divorce your wife against her will. This is not applicable by the Arusa. Okay, Rabotai, so let me do that one more time through. Ve'ayim b'sefer Beit Meir, look into the book called Beit Meir. Dinira lo yoter pirush ha-Beit Hillel. It seems to more, the explanation of Beit Hillel is more reasonable and more better than any other acharon. The Kavanat Ramah, when it comes to explaining the Ramah, lefaresh divrei ha-Mechaber, to explain the words of the Mechaber, the ba'arusa lo teken, when we said by the Arusa, they did not institute the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. Do you know which cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom we're speaking about? Ha'inu mashi teken shelo legaresh ba'al korcha. This that he instituted not to divorce your wife against her will, that he did not institute by the Arusa. V'zehu shehusif, and this is what the Ramah added. If you don't want to marry, but rather you want to divorce her, what do you mean divorce her? That means to say, you are able to go ahead and you're allowed to divorce her against her will. Aval, however, but to go ahead and marry another woman before divorcing your arusa, lo Meir, the Ramah was never speaking about that. That the Ramah was never speaking about. Vehu asur, and that is asur to do. Why is it asur to do? Because you still have the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom even on a arusa. However, he does give us an exception when it's going to be mutar to marry another woman without first divorcing the arusa. Unless we're looking from the perspective which is mentioned towards the end of the Ramah, where she doesn't want to marry him, or she does not want to divorce him. Az yesh lahakel lo lisa acheret. Then we're going to tell him that he can be lenient and go ahead and get married to another woman, and even then we're not going to be concerned for the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom in the first situation. Now, Rabotai, I want to just show you something. If you go to the Ramah, if you look into the Ramah, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if you guys remember, we spoke about a situation where he spoke about in a place where the first wife is not divorceable. Kigon, for example, for example, she became deranged. You can't divorce her because she has to, according to the Ashkenazim, she has to be fully there. She has to be with her consent. Or halachically, he's able to go ahead and divorce her. We gave two different explanations on how to understand that. Here we go. Ve'ena rotza likach get mimenu. But she does not want to take the get from him. Yesh lahakel, one can be lenient. Lahatir lo lisa acheret, to allow him to go ahead and let him marry another woman. So that is what the Pitchit Shuv is telling us over here. This that we're going to tell you right over here, that to go ahead and marry another woman, say Leah, before divorcing Sarah, which is the Arusa, that we're never going to allow you to do, unless Sarah is giving us a problem. Unless Sarah says, look, I don't want to live with you, but at the same time she says, I don't want to accept the divorce from you. So what do you want the guy to do? Over there comes the Pitchit Shuv, and he tells you, we're going to allow him to go ahead and get married to Leah, because we have room to be lenient, because she's giving us the problem, it's not him. Continues the Pitchit Shuv, and he says, V'chen iskim b'tushut Chatam Sofer, and so too, this was agreed in the response of the Chatam Sofer, in Evean Hazaer Chalak Aleph Siman Aleph, V'katav, and he wrote over there the Chatam Sofer, the Pirush Zehu Emet, that this explanation is Emet, it's 100% truthful. Umukhrach misov haga. How do we know that this is 100% emet what the Beit Hillel is, what Beit Meir is telling us in the words of Beit Hillel? Because it's proven from the words of the Ramah, like we just explained. Rabotai, we're going to stop over here. Tomorrow we're going to see, with this understanding of the Beit Meir in Beit Hillel, the way he wants to explain the Shulchan Aruch, we're going to go ahead and we're going to answer a difficulty that Chacham Tzvi had from two different Simanim in the Shulchan Aruch. Because the way we want to explain now, everything's going to come out good. We'll see that in the following class. But let's just run through this one more time. Ein Berhetiv Sivkat Chav Aleph. Look into the Berhetiv and Sivkat Chav Aleph. Add until the words Ubeit Hillel Pirush Ramah Be'inyan Acher. That Beit Hillel explained the Ramah in a different way. Ve'ayin b'sefer Beit Meir dinira lo yoter. Look into the Sefer Beit Meir, where it seems to him more Pirush Beit Hillel, where it seems to him more the explanation of Beit Hillel than the other rabbis. The Kavanat Ramah, when it comes to explaining the intention of the Ramah, lefaresh divrei Mechaber, to explain the words of the Mechaber, the Ba'arusa lo tiken. Whenever we're trying to understand the Ramah, when he's trying to tell us in the words of the Shulchan Aruch, when the Shulchan Aruch says V'chein ba'arusa, what does it mean insulted by the arusa, that there's no institution? Which institution? The second institution, which one is not allowed to divorce his wife against her will, is not applicable by the arusa. Ha'inu, which means to say, Mashi tiken shelo legeresh bar korcha. This is what Rabbeinu Gershom made an institution, not to divorce one's wife against her will. Over here by the Arusa comes the Ramah, and he's telling you, over here by the Arusa, Rabbeinu Gershom never made that institution. How do we know that? So it continues the Pitchit Shuv, and he tells us, V'zohi she'osif, and this is what the Ramah added, Im eino rotzeh liknos, if he does not want to marry her, Eila liftor, but rather he wants to divorce her. What do you mean? How are you going to divorce her? That he's able to divorce her against her will. So if this is what the Ramah is really telling us, that he's able to divorce her against her will, we see over here that the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, the second cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, is not applicable by the Arusa. And that is the way we want to learn the Ramah. And that is what the Beit Meir is telling us, that I appreciate the words of Beit Hillel and understand the Ramah this way than any other way that we have been learning up to now. Aval, however, milisa acheret kodem gerushin, but to go and marry another woman before divorcing the arusa, lo mari, that the Ramah was never speaking about, vehu asur, and that is asur to do. Imlo alatad, unless we're looking from the perspective, hamuskar, which is mentioned, besof Haggah, towards the end of the Haggah, she doesn't want to marry him. Or liftor, she does not want to divorce him. As yesh lakello lisacher, then we're going to say that he's able to go ahead and marry the second woman, even though he still did not do anything with the first wife, meaning with the first arusa, because she's giving him the problem. V'chen iskim b'teshuvot Chatam Sofer, Siman Aleph, and so too, the Pitchit Teshuva is bringing down the response of the Chatam Sofer that he agrees with the opinion of the Beit Meir in Beit Hillel. V'katav, and he wrote, the pirush zeh hu emet umuchrach misov Haggah, that this explanation is the truth, and we're forced to learn like that from the end of the Ramah. Ayin Sham, look over there. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.